What's going on, guys? Today, I'm going to be making another Scream 6 video. It should be a fun one here. Talking about some of the early reviews from some of the fans that got to see Scream 6 early. And of course, they're non-spoiler reviews as well. So, yeah, there are non-spoiler reviews here. So, you don't have to worry. So, some of the reviews that I'm going to be showing here from some of the fans that have, shared their reviews. None of these are going to be spoiler reviews. So, yeah, you don't have to worry about that. But I'm sure there is going to be spoiler reviews, because someone, I'm sure some fan is probably going to try to spoil the movie and try to, because they got to see it early. So just be careful for that. And, just spoilers in general, of course. So, yeah, be careful. And but yeah, none of these are spoiler reviews, and I'm gonna also be talking about not only that, but some interesting information that one of the fans that this one fan said in his review, that some information that I felt was interesting. So yeah, we're just gonna dive right into it. But before I do, anyone new, please like and subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, we're just gonna dive right into it. So Pop Crave at Twitter said, Scream 6 is a bloody good time, delivering what might be the franchise's strongest entry since the original. It is darker, gorier, and more violent than ever, all thanks to Matt Bentelini's and Tyler Gillette's creative use of the film's New York City setting, exemplified by an opening scene that is nothing short of iconic. Ghostface has never been scarier. Jenna Ortega, as expected, delivers another standout performance. So, I like his review. I like their review just because of what they said, and I think it's interesting, and yeah, I like what they said here. And then Big Screen Leak said this: Scream 6 is a damn good time. In true sequel fashion, it's bigger, bloodier, and scarier. Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Jasmine Savoy Brown, and Courtney Cox all give awesome performances, but Mason Gooding is the standout here. Watch out, because Ghostface isn't playing any games. So, Big Screen Leaks, his review, he basically saying, it's a good time, and true sequel fashion is bigger, bloodier, and scarier, of course. And, Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, Jasmine Savoy Brown, and Courtney Cox all give good performances, and, just talking about the characters in general. But Mason Gooding, in his opinion, he's saying was the standout to him in the film. And I think that's interesting because, viewing on, I do remember him saying something about Chad being like the heart of the film of Scream 6, and that's what Viewing On said. I remember him saying that like a couple months ago, and I mentioned that, and I talked about it in one of my videos. And I do think that that's interesting. Yeah, he's saying that Mason Gooding is a standout in his opinion in the film as Chad, and I do think that's interesting. And I do think that's a good thing as well, because of course, I want to see, Chad be developed as a character, and just the core four in general, Sam, Tara, Mindy, and Chad. I want them to all be developed good and well in the film. So if that's the case, and he's if Chad is playing a good big role in the film, if that's the case, then yeah, I'll be happy with that, and I like that. So yeah, I like what he said. Late to the Party said, Scream 6 has some of the best Ghostface moments in a Scream movie ever. The Scream 6 story is brutal, intricate, and a bloody fun time. This is a Scream sequel elevated in every way. Stay until after the credits. So he said something at the bottom that is interesting. But before I get into that, though, I want to talk about what he said on the top. Saying that Scream 6 has some of the best Ghostface moments in a Scream movie ever. Late to the Party said that on his Twitter. And yeah, I think that's interesting. Like, because that's kind of similar to what the previous ones said with their reviews. But yeah, Ghostface has some of the best moments has the best moments in a Scream movie ever. I think that's interesting and cool. And of course, he's saying story is brutal, intricate, and a bloody fun time. And it's just an elevated sequel to him. And but then at the bottom, he says stay until after the credits. And I was like, that's interesting because um, you know, basically he's saying stay until after the credits. And I saw some other. I'm pretty sure I saw some other like some fan reviews as well, that have also mentioned this about some type of post credit scene, and even Critical Overlord, who quote tweeted towards late to the party. He quote tweeted this tweet right here and said, there's a post credit scene with a question mark, and that's what Critical Overlord said, and that's how I found out about this late to the party tweet, because he replied to it, and I saw it on his Twitter. And yeah, so it seems like there's gonna be a post credit scene. Like this seems to be what is being said by some of the fan some of the fans that got to see the movie. That's what some of them are saying in their reviews, that there's gonna be some type of post credit scene, because it says stay until after the credits. So after the movie's done, what is going to be shown, what is going to be seen here. I mean, I don't know, like you know like there's possibilities of like a lot of things. But here's the thing, though. I will say, though, I don't think it's about, like, because with the post credit scene, and staying, like, if there's something after the credits and whatnot, after the film, after the movie's done and whatnot, like, I don't think you know that there's like I don't think it has anything to do with Nev, in my opinion, because I know that some fans are probably gonna think that, that have probably seen some of these reviews, and they're probably gonna be like, oh yeah, what if the post credit scene or whatever is after the credits, like, what if what it is it has to do with Nev Campbell and her having some type of like small cameo towards the end, like in the credits of the film, and Nev Campbell as Sydney appears. And me personally, I don't think that's gonna be the case. And I don't really, because like I said, I don't think Nev is gonna be in the film at all in general, and Sydney's not gonna be in it. And that's just my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I just don't see Sydney being in this film at all. And that's just my opinion, though. And I'm not, of course, I'm not trying to like sound negative or anything, but I just don't think that that's necessarily the case. You know, I don't think Nev Campbell's even gonna be like some small cameo or anything. And that's just how I feel. So I don't think this has anything to do with Nev or Sydney. It could possibly do with some type of cliffhanger ending, maybe after the movie is finished and done. There's like a post credit scene, and and like it shows like some little small scene of just like maybe Ghostface, one of the killers, running away, running off, and they escape, or like they're escaping, or maybe one of the killers kills someone, or they attack someone, and that's the cliffhanger ending. Maybe there's multiple killers that get away. There's more than one killer that gets away. I mean, I don't know. Like there's like quite a bit of possibilities that I can see for a post credit scene for Scream 6. Like this late to the party, him saying stay until after the credits, though, it definitely has me intrigued and interested in what is going to be, what this whole post credit thing is going to be and whatnot. But yeah, it's interesting though. It's interesting, and yeah, like I said, it could be a cliffhanger ending. One of the killers escapes. Maybe it could just be like what if like Kirby, um, like what if Kirby gets attacked or something, and it like and that's part of the like post credit scene. Like after the movie's done, we just get this little scene afterwards, and it shows just Kirby, just like just doing whatever, and then she gets a phone call by one of the Ghostface killers, and she's like surprised because she's like, wait, what? I thought all the Ghostface killers died. I thought, we solved everything already. So like, what's going on? Then maybe one of the killers, attacks Kirby, and then it just like cuts off, and just the movie just ends like that, and we're like, yo, what just happened? And we're led to believe, a lot of us fans are led to believe that Kirby died, but then of course then we find out in Scream 7, oh, she survived. Just like a big shock factor type thing that they can add for the credits, after the movie's finished, and they can have like just a small scene like that. I think that'll be interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Like, like I said, one of the killers could be getting away. That could be part of what it is, or whatever. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting what he said. Eric Davis said here, I had a blast watching the new Scream 6 movie tonight in the heart of New York City. A phenomenal opening sequence spills into a gruesome killing spree that honors the entire franchise in some clever ways. Jenna Ortega and Melissa Rivera are rock stars, as is Jasmine Savoy Brown. A great time. So yeah, that's what he said here. And some of these reviews, of course, are kind of like just repeat of other. They're like kind of repeating. Like some of them probably sound repetitive, but at the same time, they're non-spoiler reviews, so like it makes sense. So like I don't really expect them, some of these these reviews that I'm showing you guys, to like say some like wild stuff about the movie. Like, of course, because I mean, all they can really say is just, oh yeah, and like I like this. The movie was great. I like this and this and this character or this actor. I mean, or like the movie was gory. Stuff like that. It makes sense that that's really, all they would say, because it's a non-spoiler review. So it makes sense. But then Shannon of the Dead here on her Twitter said, as someone who did not like Scream 5, I urge those who felt similarly to go see Scream 6 this weekend, this coming weekend. Your socks are going to be knocked all the way off. All the way off. So, yeah, I mean, that's interesting. It seems like Scream 6 is going to be mind-blowing, And she said, as someone who did not like Scream 5. So, and she's saying, I urge those who felt similar to go see Scream 6 this coming weekend, because it's going to blow your socks off, And yeah, it's interesting because, she's saying she didn't like Scream 5, but she likes Scream 6 though. And, I think that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's cool, because I do think that either way, if there's some fans out there that don't like Scream 5, there's a possibility that you might end up liking Scream 6, So, like, that's always a possibility here. So I do think that that's interesting that she said that. And then, last but not least, I got viewer on here who said, I've seen Scream 6, and if you're in it for the characters, kills, chases, and scares, you're gonna love it. I think it's the weakest killer plus motive in the franchise, but it doesn't matter much when the whole movie is this ridiculous when the whole movie is this ridiculously fun. I don't know why that was so hard to say, but yeah. Yeah, and I think I like what he said here because he kind of said something a little bit different from some of the other reviews that I just talked about. And yeah, he's saying that I've seen Scream 6, and the characters and the kills and the chases and the scares are something that he really liked. And but he at the same time though he thinks it's the weakest killer plus motive in the franchise. But it doesn't matter much when this whole movie is just it's fun. It's just so fun, and I think that's interesting because so the characters are good, the kills are good, the chases and the scares, the brutal and the fear factor, the all that stuff is good. But in his opinion, he just didn't really like the killer and and the motive and all that stuff. He thinks it's the weakest. And of course that's just his opinion and that's how he feels, but he's kind of giving a little bit of a different review here, more kind of like on the negative side, more kind of more like critiquing something that he didn't like in his review specifically here. And I think that's interesting, and I like that because it's more insightful to how he feels and and viewing on and what he thinks. And I think that's cool, and because like at the end of the day, you know, all opinions like if you go, because like like if you were to go right now and see some fan reviews, because like at the end of the day, you're gonna like even when the movie comes out and once the movie you know is already out, there's gonna be a lot of reviews for the movie, and like once the movie officially releases and it comes out, there's gonna be all like a lot of fans. um they're gonna say this, and because like that's like there's bound to be just different types of feelings and towards certain things, and just some fans having this opinion on this thing or that thing. Like that's obviously going to happen, and that's once the like I said, once the movie actually comes out, and after it's been like maybe a month already from the movie's release from now, there's most likely going to be already spoiler reviews and a whole bunch of all that spoiler stuff going around about the movie. And at that point, you're going to see a lot of opinions coming out from a lot of fans, and you're going to see maybe one fan feels this way about this thing, and one fan feels this way about that thing. One fan like this, and maybe you'll see another one like that. So you're gonna see all types of just overall just different thoughts and whatnot. Just a lot of different thoughts from a lot of fans, and I think that's fun and to consider, and and whatnot, and take that in. So whether it be positive or negative, because at the end of the day, you know like that's where we're there's bound to be a lot of different opinions. So I think it's fun to at least consider whether if you agree or not with some of them. Sometimes you just got to take things into consideration, and kind of just think about them, you know so yeah, I like what he said here, viewing on. He thinks it's the weakest motive and killers, but he still loved the movie. So I do think that that's interesting, because maybe whenever I watch the movie, once I finally get to watch it, maybe I'll disagree. Maybe I'll feel like this was the best killer and the motive in the franchise. So like it's fun to just see just these different thoughts going around. And then he said here, um for those who have asked, what's it called? Scream 5 and Scream 6 have surprisingly different strengths and weaknesses for films made by the same creative team, and I'll get into my issues with Scream 6 once you've all had a chance to see it. But I think overall I prefer Scream 6. So yeah, like I said, he's saying this as well. And then at the bottom here, he says, "I can't stress enough how good the chases and set pieces are in this movie. Potentially the best collection in the entire franchises, in the entire franchise." So yeah, good. He's saying there's good chases, and his opinion, set pieces were good, and he's saying as well in his opinion that Scream 5 and Scream 6 have surprisingly different strengths and weaknesses for the films, and made by the same creative team. And he's saying that he's going to get into his issues with it eventually soon, but overall he prefers Scream 6 over Scream 5. And yeah, I mean, like I said, that's interesting, because it's interesting to see him say that, because maybe one fan will feel the opposite. Like I said, maybe one fan ends up being like, nah, I think Scream 5 overall was better than Scream 6. I think Scream 6 was not as great and whatnot. Like that you're about, like, it's just fun to see these all kinds of different opinions from a lot of fans. So yeah, it's interesting and fun to see, and different strengths and weaknesses between Scream 5 and Scream 6 that he said here. So I mean, I don't know. Once I see Scream 6 though for myself, I'm gonna give my review and all that stuff. Maybe I'm probably just gonna do a non-spoiler review and then a spoiler review, like not that long afterwards. So yeah, that should be fun once I see Scream 6, of course. But yeah, basically most of these reviews that I just showed you guys though, from some of these fans, including Viewering On, most of them just said the same thing, but Viewering On was probably the only one that said something different, but like at least a little bit different. But I mean, overall, a lot of these were the same. But like I said, it makes sense because, I mean, these are non-spoiler reviews, so of course it's not going to be like key detail reviews of just like saying, oh, I like this about the movie specifically because of that, or I don't like this specifically because of this. Like, of course, they can't get that much into detail. These are non-spoiler reviews, so it makes sense. But I do want to say too as well though, that because I seen some fans say that, like, oh, there was a lot of reviews that said the same thing about Scream 5, that this movie was so good, and and that it's the best since the original. Like, there was a lot of fans saying that about Scream 5, and there was a lot of reviews saying that about Scream 5 too, but then it ended up not being good and all this stuff. But here's the thing though, I feel like that's true. I mean, that's like obviously, like, that's not wrong. But at the same time though, like, it's the same thing here though. Like Scream 6 with Scream 5, like, of course, like they're like Scream, like, even with Scream 6, like I said, there's like almost all these comments that all these reviews that I showed you guys in this video from some of these fans that gave the reviews. Most of them said the same thing about just the gore and the chases and how good it is. Some of them said it's the best since the original. And, a lot of that was being said about Scream 5 too. And it makes sense though, because like I said, these are non-spoiler reviews. So, of course, like, that's mainly, of course, stuff like that is going to be said with non-spoiler reviews. It makes sense. So, That's kind of my whole thing there. Like it's happening here with Scream 6, and of course it happened with Scream 5. But like I said, these are non-spoiler reviews, so of course a lot of these reviews aren't gonna necessarily talk about specifically what they liked and what they don't like. So it was the same thing with Scream 5. Like, of course, they're not gonna say. Of course, a lot of these reviewers aren't gonna just outright say, "Oh, this is what I liked about the film. This is why I think it's so good." Like, you know, at the end of the day, once I get to see it, once whoever is watching this and gets to see it, then that's when we can come into our opinions on how we feel about Scream 6. These reviews are just, a lot of these reviews are just to kind of just look and admire them, and just to see, what some of these fans are saying, and kind of like just take into consideration. But not, at the end of the day, though, you have to form your own opinion. Whether if you like a film or not is all on you. So at the end of the day, that's really all it's about. So whether if you like Scream 5 or not, I don't think that necessarily has to do with what a lot of the reviewers were saying about Scream 5. Because at the end of the day, that's your opinion. If you didn't like Scream 5, or if you did, at the end of the day, like that had to do with just simply your opinion. Like, and a lot of the reviewers were also just giving their opinion, but also in a non-spoiler way, like I said. So like it makes sense. And even some of the ones that maybe did go talk a little bit negative in their non-spoiler reviews about Scream 5, even they still didn't dive into like spoiler territory, because it's a non-spoiler review. So it's just that's just what it is. So yeah, that's kind of like just my whole thing of just like, with some of the fans that have said like, oh yeah, but a lot of the reviews for Scream 5 were the same thing, and the same things were being said, like how it's the best since the original, and it's so good, and then I watched the movie for myself and it was so bad. But like I said, at the end of the day though, a lot of reviews are just simply reviews. It's just simply a lot of the fans just posting their opinions. At the end of the day, however you feel about the film in the end, once you see it for yourself, is your opinion, and that's all it is. It's not, because it has nothing really to do with some of the reviews that you saw, whether they were talking positively or negatively. Like, that's all just you forming your own opinion once you see the movie for yourself, which is, like I said, what I'm gonna do, and what what should be done. Like, form your own opinion once you see the movie for yourself. At the end of the day, some of these reviews are just to look at and just see. That's all it is, and nothing more than that. So yeah, and then I kind of want to just talk about this real quick, because I talked about this in my last video, but I'm just going to talk about this real quick. So as well, because I talked about this in my last video about a possible Scream 7 that came here from Viewer Anon, that, Viewer Anon talked about today. And, he talked about this whole, like, Scream 7 being already, like, they're, like, apparently deep into writing Scream 7. So it seems like, eventually Scream 7 is going to be confirmed. They're, like, kind of already working on it and whatnot. And, like, of course, Viewing On, this is, of course, I always say, take, like, overall, take a lot of the stuff I talk about when it comes to, like, a lot of the stuff I talk about, I say take it with a grain of salt. And, but, I mean, Viewing On, though, I feel like, overall, he's a reliable source, so that's why a lot of the times I trust him, because he's a reliable source. So Viewing On, he's reliable. So I don't necessarily think he's lying about, Scream 7 already, like, being written, kind of being in development already too. Like, I don't think he's lying about that. So I do, and I don't. This kind of already is sort of a confirmation with Scream 7 just by what Viewing On is saying. But there hasn't, of course, there hasn't been an official confirmation from the Scream Twitter account, or Paramount, the studio, whatever. Of course, they haven't gave us Scream 7 official confirmation yet, but I'm sure soon they will though. So that's kind of what I wanted to say there. Like, I'm sure soon they will, but Viewing On just is pointing this out already here, just that Scream 7 is, that he heard that they're already deep into writing Scream 7. So yeah, I mean, it's already sort of in development, and I think that's cool. And I talked about that in my last video. And then he also said here at the bottom, I didn't really acknowledge it in my last video, but he said here that as a fan of Halloween Kills, I can promise you Scream 6 feels nothing like that, which he didn't really get into. He kind of just said, oh yeah, as a fan of Halloween Kills, I can promise you Scream 6 feels nothing like that. He didn't really explain more, which makes sense. But when I first read this, I was like, wait, what? But I do think though that what I think what he means by that, at least how I'm interpreting that, is that Halloween Kills was, because of course Scream 6 is already, it's been talked about with just being brutal and gory and all that stuff and being scary, and Halloween Kills was very well like that too. But Viewing On is saying, in his opinion, that as a fan of Halloween Kills, Scream 6 is really nothing like that. And I think, because even though I think what he means, in my opinion, at least how I'm interpreting it, is that like Scream 6 is he's like, Scream 6, although it is going to be brutal and gory, it's also still character driven with development and character plot and story and whatnot. Unlike a movie like Halloween Kills that was mainly just about the brutal kills and the gore and the fear factor, the shock factor, all that stuff. And of course with Scream 6, it's already being talked about, like that as well. But I think what Viewing On is saying here, at least how I'm interpreting it, like I said, is that he's saying that although Scream 6 is gory and brutal, it's not just going to be about the gore and brutality, though. It's also going to be character driven as well, with a lot of chase scenes and suspense and all that stuff. It's not just the brutality and gore. So I think that's also what he means by that when he says that. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that real quick. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.